So
yeah, absolutely.
if you're offended by this, be offended by it. Because you're probably a shitty realtor, right? If you're offended by that statement, you're probably a shitty realtor.
The Atomic Real Estate Show, bringing you the real estate of real estate. Brought to you by Danny Bennett Productions in partnership with Direct Subs.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show. My name is Ryan Dolan. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Nick Cessna. We're going to talk everything real estate related, finance, friends, family, and what we do for a living here. So, Nick, when we were presented this podcast, you were on this show before. I was as well. We thought it would be a great idea for us to get together, share what we've learned from our time on this show, and spread our expertise to kind of our new guests, our new wave of guests.
Absolutely. And in preparation for this, I went back and re-listened to your episode, which was episode 22, back on August 8th. I have some notes here. And I had a couple questions. Number one, I always forget that your dumbass went to college. And we'll get into all that. And but first,
I do not use my degree for my work, but it helps.
Well, at least you don't have to call your dad to ask what it is, like Matt and the lady does. That's a real story. He actually has to call his dad multiple times. Dad, what's my degree in? Number one, how crazy is it to be here right now? As we're now 40-year-old men. We grew up running around these streets right here, Terrace and East. We're in 206 East Street right now, a house that me and Jen purchased and did a third floor addition on, renovated. And we're sitting in this home right now that's listed for $575,000 that we grew up running around here. And it's like, for me, it's hard. It's hard to even when you take a step back from this fast-paced life that we live and you take a second to think about it and you're like, did we grow up here? And these are the homes now that we're putting out there to people. You're mortgaging them for a lot of our buyers. And it's just a wild feeling.
Life comes at you fast,
Yeah.
right? It's like, as you pulled up here today, it's like, one, the home's beautiful, right? It's 206 East. We're listed for $575 right now. They popped the third floor out on this thing. I mean, it's top to bottom, soup to nuts. So we're on location at one of the Cessna Construction's awesome renovations. But yeah, I mean, 20 short years ago would have been a different story, right? So it's now we're here lending kind of our expertise on how we got into the industry, what it is we actually do. And yeah, I know you got a couple questions for me to start, so let's do it.
The other thing is too, it's so cool that how this neighborhood has changed. The playground that we used to run around and play at, throw fireworks at people and stuff and do stupid stuff like we were doing as kids, drinking, on these steps right up here and chasing girls. And then now several of our friends took the bar down the street. It used to be East End Tavern, which when we were growing up was just, let's be honest, it was like a meth den. I mean, it was, bikers, and it was disgusting, and we really weren't allowed in there. We weren't really allowed down by there. And now, our friends Richie and them guys, they bought that building, renovate the building. They have units upstairs that they're renting out. And the bar, a restaurant, is arguably the bar and restaurant in Manayunk now. And those guys are doing great stuff down there. They're doing a lot of charity stuff. And it's cool to see now, as, we're in our 40s, the same guys who were goofballs back in the day are now
Us
doing
included.
such, 100%, such amazing things charity-wise. And it's surreal. It's a really cool thing to be around here now and see everything that's going on.
So we kind of saw the neighborhood change before our eyes, right? We're born and raised Roxborough, Manayunk in the city, right? Went to school at Roman Catholic. But what we did is when we grew up in this neighborhood, right? It was a blue-collar, working-class neighborhood, Catholic schools. And the neighborhood's changed. We went through some phases. We've worked with a lot of guys that thought they were developers that found out quickly they're not developers. But there's a lot of people that really help, yourself included, obviously, help spearhead the change of this neighborhood, right? Now this neighborhood has quite a different demographic from the one we grew up, probably a positive, right? 100%. So now we're making the area that we grew up in and the community that we work in just a better place to live. I mean, look at this place. It's awesome. So
yeah, I mean, Mr. Dolan's still up the street, right?
Yes, he is.
Like your
Right.
dad's
Kingsley
still up the
and
street.
Manio?
Yeah, 2 blocks away, right up the steps. And it's a 100% different neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's great. It's sad to see the old neighborhood kind of not the same as it used to be. But again, I think the positives outweigh the negatives here. You're giving people amazing homes to live at, the community, reinvesting back into the business, the commercial space, and obviously the living and real estate space.
I mean, it doesn't have the amount of kids that it used to have when we were growing up, but I think that also has to do with the fact that people aren't having as many children as it was. I mean, this was primarily, Catholic, Irish, Polish, Italian, German. I mean, there was different churches.
And there's about 5 churches within 6 blocks.
And
right?
each church was a different, basically, ethnicity, of your background. St. Lucy's was the Italian kids. St. Mary, St. John's was Irish kids, German kids. St. Joseph's was the Polish kids. And, that was more so like our parents, generation. And then it got into our generation where people still had a lot of kids. Like my mom and dad are each, I think, 1 of 5 and 6. And then there was 3 of us. And then, I have 3 kids, you have 2 kids, but it's dwindling down. Now, a lot of people around here now have 1 kid, 2 kids, as opposed to 6 and 10 children anymore.
Sure.
So it's just a different dynamic nowadays around here.
No doubt about it. So, kind of how we grow up. I'm from the way of Fairmount, got to Manayunk when I was first born. And like I said, you think things are going to stay the same forever, right? And now we quickly realize that it's not. But we always thought to ourselves, well, what do we do? How do we keep it the same, but kind of give it the fresh look? Like, we all gravitated towards one another through real estate, believe it or not. We grew up, we didn't know which paths we were going to, connect in. And now, you and I have been friends for quite a long time, but we really, our relationship, has went even further because of real estate, And again, the guys that, help us run this show, the Atomic Real Estate Show, they have a great company behind it that it's also in real estate, direct subs, right? So it's like, what our goal is here is to show people, well, what is it we do, right? And how do you get started? Because everybody thinks that this stuff, this has been a labor of love, right? This is 14 years for me, at least, in the mortgage financing piece of it. You've been in the construction part, and we've lived many lives before this, right? But it's stuff that we've all gravitated towards with like-minded guys and like-minded individuals. And the work, I laugh about it now because the work that we've all done in this area and beyond, it's crazy. You think you're not making that big of an impact, but you sure are. And, I think you learn that from your mentors. I know I have. I've had some of the greatest mentors. This industry's tough, right? It's like, especially in a market like today, you don't think if, there's ebbs and flows and you don't know if you're going to make it out. But if you lean on people and colleagues that are like-minded and as smart as you, I think it's been so rewarding for me, obviously, reconnecting with lifelong childhood friends and seeing people that have kind of the same vision as me is really why we're here today.
It's like even Danny, I mean, he's a lot younger than us. And, he's in the background of this video right now, handling all the video stuff. And, I knew this kid when he was younger, seen him, running around the streets and stuff where I live, and not in a bad way. He's 100% like, he's not like us. He's just a fucking good kid. But he's got this business where he's doing all this videography stuff for weddings and other stuff. And I approached him. I said, Dan, there's photographers that come out and take photos of our homes, but I really want to take it to the next level. I want your level of videography that you're doing for these weddings with these drones and all these different shots that you're doing. I want that in real estate. And I think you should really try this and come take some shots of my homes, and I'm going to put them out there. I'm going to pay you. We'll come up with some kind of pay schedule based off your time, and you tell me what's fair. And I think that once people see that and they see that we're doing that and we're pushing it out there, and Danny Bennett Productions is doing our videos, that they're going to want to hire you. And that's happened since then. And it was just a local kid that's hustling and has a nice niche market that he's doing this videography stuff. I'm illiterate with computers and technology and all that kind of stuff. And I want to lean on the people that are right for that. I see Danny get him into this, and now he's sitting here doing a podcast with us, doing all the production stuff for us. And he did a video of this place. And we had an idea. Danny's always coming up with ideas. My kids are coming up with ideas. I'm coming up with ideas. And Danny, you know, we got together on this house and we did something that we'd never done before. As we were starting to demo and starting to frame, Danny came in, started doing videos, started doing drone shots. And then when we were done with this house, my daughters, we wanted to get them more involved. And, you know, I don't really care about being on camera. Jen definitely doesn't want to be on camera. Yeah, my wife's a gorgeous woman, but she's like, you know,
I would love to get her on as a guest.
Leave me out of this shit.
Yeah,
she
that
don't
would
want to
be some good
seen.
B-rolls if we had Jenny on here.
And she's the one that does all this stuff, all these designs. So we bring the girls in, and Danny was great with them. I mean, they had him running around this house. You know, he's chasing around with the video cameras. They're coming up with ideas and reaching into the refrigerator. And he made this video, and you know, we can look at it on here, and Danny can roll it for everybody to see. And
I just need some space. I just need some space. Space. I just need some space. Space. I just need some space. Space. I just need some space.
Way up, how it feel right now. Touchdown, whole city get loud, but I don't wanna hear none right now. Right now, they talk, but I don't hear sound. Just in the one billboard now. Hot boy, they know how to get down. Get down, no, they can't get me down. I talked to God just now, he told me, boy, go make me proud. So I can't slow down, no, I can't go down. Got my head in the clouds, feeling like
I just need some space. I just need some.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, we had this on Instagram. And again, shout out to Danny. Thank you. This guy does amazing work. Give him a shout and a follow at Danny Bennett Productions on Instagram. And look, it's not, if you don't want to get into the building world, the finance world, the real estate world, learn something about the production piece. I mean, this is going to have a lot of tentacles to it, right? So we're learning about the technology side of it right now, right? First podcast for me, second podcast for me, first time ever hosting. So I'm excited to do it with a buddy and a colleague and someone we work with every day. Makes it a lot easier, right? Because we speak the language. We want to share that with the viewers because we know how it feels to be like when it's on an island, right? When you're kind of the small fish in a pool of sharks. We've been there. I've been there. I get in and out of that pool quite a bit. So I'm glad that I have such a trusted friend and somebody that's a no nonsense, and it's going to be no fluff, no BS. We're going to tell you the real deal. We're going to tell you the wins. We're going to tell you the losses. The losses, you probably learn much more than the W's. And we're not going to sit here and make it all, you know, sunshine and rainbows, right? Because it's just certainly not. But we're going to give you tips on how we navigate through our day-to-day, what makes us successful, what makes us fall on our face. And I think it's invaluable, you know, to have, again, such a trusted friend and a great staff behind us that it's going to take this podcast to the next level.
the wins are easy to compile, man. And it's easy for people to be braggadocious and say, you know, these are my highlight reel. These are my stats. You know, and that's
social media is your highlight.
That's
clip.
what we
it's
see
the
with
new age
social
highlight.
media.
Everybody's
nowadays.
catching W's. Everybody thinks they make it. We come from money, you know, XYZ. There's not an excuse. I mean, you and I are just a testament of hard work, making the right connections, being good to people. And trust me, there's times you're not. You know, business gets rough and this business is nasty. But, you know, as you live and you learn, being confident in your work, being an expert in your field, leaning on the people that are smarter than you in things that are not inside your field. That's how I've made
Not even smarter, people to think differently.
differently than me, right? Like, you know, we have a very similar mindset, but we also have a very different business philosophy in a lot of things, right? So things I learned from you, you learn from me. We're not even looking for it. It's just kind of you bounce ideas and collaboration. And yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, you know, and I can't wait to see where this takes us and excited to jump in.
People won't even really believe this, but there's a lot of times where I call you in the morning and I'm like, dude, I was up late last night. Like we talked the other day and I think you need to do this in business. I mean, how many times does that happen? Because that's really what I do a lot of times is I overthink. I mean, that's my detriment as well. I fucking overthink everything, right? And everything is a chess game. You know, everything's chess, and I'm thinking 10 steps ahead. And I like to, like similar with Danny with the videography, where it was like, yeah, you don't pigeonhole yourself just in the wedding stuff. You're killing the wedding game.
Sure.
You got that, bro. But like there's going to be down times in your off season. Get into real estate.
Sure.
Right? And then in the same turn, I know that he's going to be wanting to buy homes and stuff like that and his age group. So it's like you need to get involved. Like you don't just have to be an investor, a builder, a loan officer to be involved in real estate. And I like to think about my friends. I like to think about their businesses, even though it doesn't financially affect me in any way. Like your business doesn't financially affect me, but there's times where I just lay it in bed and I'm like, my mind's just always racing, or I'm sitting in a sauna, or I'm sitting in a shower. I like to meditate and I have to block out all these other thoughts. But then sometimes these thoughts just come in and I'm like, how can I help my friends with their businesses?
Well, then you present me ideas and, you know, you may be up stirring all night and it's so simple, right? It's like keep things simple and you're thinking about it not from a mortgage perspective. You're thinking from a consumer perspective. Things that we just either get complacent on, don't think of, lose track on. It's good to have friends outside of that world because as we get in our little bubble, we think everybody speaks our language, right? And this is the most important part of the show for me. It's because if I can help a couple people get into this, you know, the mortgage world, the real estate world, the construction world, production world, whatever it might be, if my little advice, my losses, and my trials and tribulations, I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? It's,
if you have friends that are passionate about things, like passionate about their businesses, and then they can bring that passion into your business as well with no, when you surround yourself with people that want you to succeed, you are going to succeed.
They lift you up, right? So yeah, it's like-minded people. This neighborhood's full of small business owners, working class guys. I mean, nobody came from a golden parachute, silver spoon, anything like that, right? So we're talking ground up stuff. What worked, what didn't, what we're still learning, obviously a ton. And if this market has taught us anything, the pandemic, it's a different beast out here now, right? And the people still standing are here for a reason. And that's what we're going to bring on some guests this, you know, through the podcast and the show to kind of see what they've done to stay viable in this market. You know, we're going to have great real estate professionals on here, you know, builders. I mean, just, we have so many excellent people that we're going to bring on. Just a little bit about me kind of to slide into it. You know, this is 14 years. I'm what's called a mortgage loan officer, and I originate loans in all 50 states throughout the country. I work for a company called My City Mortgage that colleagues and I started about 5 years ago, this April actually. And 14 years in the business. Didn't know what I was doing. Came from humble beginnings after that college graduation. You know, hospitality industry. Worked as a bartender for 15 years. But this was the natural progression for me, right? And as I mentioned, you know, I had amazing mentors throughout the way. And the way I got into this business, somebody pulled up, you know, Jay Modersky. You know, everybody knows Jay around here. The guy's got swag. I love Jay. Pulled up.
He's definitely got swagger. I don't know if I'd say that to his face, but dude definitely has like something
thing,
about him.
I don't know if he'll listen to this thing.
Yeah, he don't give a shit what we got to say. But no, he definitely has a swagger and a confidence about him that is infectious.
Yeah, and you know what? He pulled in one day and I said, "What is it, Jay? Like everybody comes to you. You're the local expert here, right?" And I was infatuated by that. Like, man, any real estate related question, he was the guy, right? He was the guy you came to. So Jay took me under his wing. He built a great team around us. You know, they were the fun early days in the mortgage business. And, you know, we worked together for about 10 years. Life goes in different directions, right? Everybody goes on new ventures. But he was one of the strongest mentors that I had throughout. And a lot of the stuff that I do with people under my wing now, it's just tidbits that I've taken from people that helped me along the way. It's, you know, and I put my own twist on it. So as we got kind of, you know, in the mortgage game and I got established, you know, my old relationships started coming back, right? People that thought like me, like what well, how can I get mixed up with a Nick?
What made you, like, I know you said you saw Jay. What made you want to become a loan officer? Like, once you had that conversation with Jay about what actually is a loan officer or an LO, as we say, what was it? Like, what was that one thing where you were like, yeah, that's what I want to do?
Well, it's you don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want to write mortgages for a living, right? But it was that confidence that a person had about it, like he had about him. He was the one-stop shop. If you had anything related, mortgage related, real estate related, building related, you call Jay, right? He was a guy. And if he wasn't the guy, he had a guy for something, right? So I saw how his networks worked and how he helped people get into homes, people that rented their whole lives, people that didn't think they were ever going to be able to buy. And you took those small wins and you take the momentum with it, right? It snowballs. So you're like, oh man, I can do this. Well, I'm pretty good at it. I made that family pretty happy. And then it's like, you kind of went through there. So, the money was good, right? And the money changes, but the money goes up, it goes down. And
now with loan officers, like, what are the specific requirements that it takes to become a loan officer? And then what are the best, like, I have a couple notes down here once I listen to your podcast, because out of ignorance, I think it's just, I take it for granted, the fact that one of my best friends is a loan officer, is a mortgage guy. And any questions I ever had about mortgages, I always called you. Even if there were programs that you guys weren't handling and it was banks, or if it was portfolio loans and this and that, or as I'm getting offers from buyers, I call you all the time, 10 o'clock at night. Yo, I just got an offer and it's saying this. And sometimes it's things that I still don't even know, but I take that for granted because I don't need to learn everything about it because I have you to lean on all the time. Now,
I mean, for the East Falls property that just came up, right? It's like, you have something as simple as a cash offer, but we go through each bit of it to make sure that there's going to be no blind side coming here. We want to make sure the offer's right, and you get your bottom line. You get what you need, and you got to have a great family that gets into a brand new custom home. So as far as my job is, it's a little different. So that you can work in a bank where you wouldn't have to take a lot of licensing requirements. I chose to go the harder route and do all the licensing requirements. Keep up with that, get individually licensed in each state. Now I'm licensed in 50 different states.
What does that take? Like, and do you have to do like continuing education?
Yeah. So you have continuing education each year. You would have to be licensed in each individual state.
Do you need a degree?
You do not need a college degree, which is great.
High school diploma.
It's nice to have a business and finance degree, I must say, because the language is different. When you first get into it, it's intimidating. And, we started what was called a loan officer university. We had 28 guys that Jay helped set up back at the Gateway Funding days. I think 3 guys graduated from that class. 3. Because they realized it's a slow climb to the top, right? When you have your CEO saying, do you have 4 years to punt or build your book of business, that'll scare the heck out of anybody, because that means, well, I may not have a paycheck coming in for 4 years. Now, I didn't think like that. I thought we could speed this process up with our network of people. But again, it took a long time. It takes a lot of time to try, through friends, family, close deals.
You continued to bartend.
As I did this. Yeah. There was supplemental income. Somebody once told me.
That's a must, pretty much.
It was a must. And I got to be honest, it was a great networking tool. Because that was the community hub when you're, in your 20s and 30s. That's where you meet first-time home buyers. But somebody did tell me, you don't want to be a jack of all trades as you progress through this. So it's like, eventually, as I had kids, got married, got older, I said, you got to give something up. And as it was hard to give up, it was time, right? I wanted to dive all in the mortgage space, so that I did. But then it's like, you're back, right? You lose a lot of money. You lose a lot of leads. But it was the natural progression piece. It's like, dive all in, put your feet to the fire, get after it. And that's kind of what I did.
Now, would you say that bartending helped you a lot in your business because of that ability to talk to people?
Sure.
Now, and what kind of personality, like one of my notes here is I have, what personality type does best as an LO? And then what are the realistic expectations for year 1 through 5 financially? Because that's what people are going to want to know. Like, you touched on, so you don't need a degree. You touched on that stuff. You have to take some tests and some licensing and to get all that and continue education. So what personality is going to do best? I know you're the type of guy that, like we joke about it all the time, like guys like me and you can open up the refrigerator at night and enter into a monologue and just start speaking. And we can walk into a room full of 100 people and walk out with 100 phone numbers. We just have that ability. So is there an ability for someone who's very shy to be a loan officer, or is that kind of like,
no, I think some of the best loan officers that I know and colleagues that I work with and partners with are hyper analytical, right? They do better behind spreadsheets, computer screens, so they can tell you every single number. I'm a little hybrid, right? I like to be out. I like to sell a little more. I like to take those things that I learned, in that hospitality industry and implement them into my business, right? Because I like to have a little more dialogue, sell a little more, not as a matter of fact. Like to find out a little more what the consumer needs. So, I mean, really, that's a loaded question because anybody can get into it. The barrier to get in it's hard, right? And it should be, right? This is someone's biggest asset they're ever going to purchase in their life. You don't want some run-of-the-mill guy putting together, leaving your financial future in the hands of someone that has no clue what they're talking about. So, and if this couple years taught anything, we weeded out a lot of those people because they're not making money. They're only in it for the buck and they're out of here. We are not in it for that, right? This is how we raise our families. This is what we do for a living and then on the side for fun. So, yeah, that's a tough question because if you think, oh man, I can't go out and sell, I can't get on a podcast, I can't dance on TikTok, guess what? I can't either. But what I like to do is I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. I'm confident in my work. I know my staff and my company's phenomenal. So it's, again, link up with those mentors. Always get somebody that has walked the path before you. The second, just link up with like-minded guys around you. Do you want to be on Instagram, social media? Because you don't have to be. There's plenty of people successful in 2024 that are not on Instagram, that are not on TikTok. I know that, hey, contradicting, we're doing a show right now. But again, this is more for us to spread our education piece on it, pay honor to the people that got us here. And, that's kind of the way I feel about it. Like a hybrid mix. I know super salesy guys that, you don't love super salesy guys either because they come to you and it sounds like they're just selling you something. So
like used car sales.
Exactly. And that's what, and I know that's the perception of some more.
So someone that is a little bit more shy with phone conversations or cold calling or being in person, but they're super comfortable behind a computer screen and they're very analytic driven. You're saying there's a position for them.
There's positions for them. Yeah, you could do.
And they can communicate through email and
absolutely.
text. And,
some of our best people are the people that don't want to go to dinners, don't want to go to breakfast, but they are the organizational piece, the foundational backbone of what we do every day. We have
like intel analysts.
Yeah, exactly. We have loan officer assistants. We have people that watch the market religiously. They know what's around the corner. I don't, right? I follow the experts and listen to things as best I can. But again, this job, there's no crystal ball. It's really, you live and you learn. You're kind of moving and adjusting with the market all the time. So what I learned 10 years ago, yeah, it was great. But it's probably not relevant to the business today and how it works. So it's the drive to constantly learn, evolve. And it's not hard. I mean, you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? It's just what we're doing here today. I'm jumping outside of my comfort zone because I want to be able to reach more people and tell them it is what we do.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on what can actually somebody make with this. We touched on the two different people working with the bank or working, like you're doing. I see the pluses and minuses of both. I can see that, and you've touched on that. But realistically, first 4 years, is going to be tough. You're going to have supplemental income. What could someone expect to make from LO on those two different spectrums, 1 through 5, and then obviously the ceiling is going to be, $250,000 a year once you're like super established and like you could kill it if you're absolutely destroying it. But 1 through 5, people that want somebody thinking about being a loan officer, what can they expect to make with those two?
Year one, don't be scared to make $20,000 on a W-2 because that's the real part of it. Because the first 2 years in the business, you are just letting everybody know what it is you do. Hey,
nobody really trusts you.
And nobody really, they're like, I trust him to pour me a Jaeger bomb, but I don't trust him to put my mortgage together, right? So what you have to do is you have to lean on your friends, your family, and you got to show them, hey, like I'm able to do this. And then the next year it's, can you make 40? Can you make 50? Can you make 60? Then you try to double it. That's all. That is what I was taught, right? If you make that 40 in year 2, try to make 80 in year 3 or 4, right? And there's going to be years where you go up and you touch the sky, right? The unicorn years through the pandemic. We all thought we could be in real estate. Every single person, you know, they were giving us 6. It was amazing. And everybody was making 6 figures. Nobody cared. They all lost sight of what was important, right? The white glove service, taking care of people. At that point, it was a free-for-all. So now we're kind of combating that. So as far as the top level superstars, I mean, there's some guys that I was just in a conference in Austin, Texas. Our top producer did 412 units. He doesn't even have an email address. He has systems put in place where this guy, I know it's blowing my mind. I have nightmares about it each night. He doesn't have an email address. He has a team in place.
That's multiple loans a day if you're saying.
He closes almost 40
Monday
transactions
through
a
Friday.
month in Denver, Colorado, and Las Vegas, where your loan amount's $1 million. Now, you're paying a full-on staff to do it. Think about not having an email and being the top producer in a company.
That's pretty impressive. So what you're saying basically is then that by year 5, someone's a hustler. There's no reason that they can't touch 6 figures.
If you're in year 5, you're probably in it for the long haul, would be my guess, because that's when you start seeing the real effects coming in. Your leads are coming in.
That's without a college degree. That's without $200,000 in college loans.
You got to just have the drive for it and lean on the people that know. And it's your base. It's your customer base. If you do a good job, year 1 through 3, it's all referral based. So they're going to come back to you. But mistakes that I made throughout my business early in, you close a loan, you're spending the check, and you don't do the follow-up, right? It's all referral based. So it's like my first 10 years in the business, I probably don't even have half of that database anymore, which is a huge mistake, right? It's all about the follow-up, all about asking for the business. But if you're in 5 years, you're probably getting close to that anywhere where you can manage to maintain.
Like background and resume wise, I'm trying to just think about, where we're at right now, sitting in a house in Manioc, all the goofballs that we grew up with. Like if you have a criminal record, can you be a loan officer?
You can have misdemeanors. If you have any,
so if someone called a DUI or something like that, public intoxication, drinking underage.
Yeah, they're going to do background checks. They're going to do fingerprints. I mean, you're a financial professional again. You don't want your financial professional with felonies and things like that.
So if you have felonies,
you should definitely check with your compliance department or who is going to hire you. But they will.
Or is there waivers for stuff like that?
I've never been in that predicament. So, for us, it was just go through the MLS, get your background checks, make sure everything's clean. But I've worked with people throughout that have gotten jammed up, unfortunately, lost their license. This is your livelihood like any professional. You conduct yourself as a professional in the business and outside the business.
What are some things people can lose their loan officer license for?
Well, I mean, again, if you go, we don't want to get into that legal part of it outside of work, but I mean, there's things, all different types of deceptive practices. You don't see it as much anymore, right? But, I got into the business in about 2010, where a lot of that stuff during subprime, that didn't exist anymore, right? The laws and the testing and the licensing requirements were so strict because of the people that came before. I'm not saying everybody did that, but you heard the horror stories. You heard the great times, obviously, like Big Short. That was very relevant back in those days, right? Where you had guys that had no business being in our world, but we're in it, and they're buying boats and houses and condos. That's not what we're in it for, right? It's nice. It comes along with it. If that's the ancillary stuff, and you want to work your ass off and go get a boat and a shore house, you can make it. It's all about how much you want to work and how much you want to network. And I'm still getting yelled at. This morning I got called, and I have a colleague yelling at me, I should be making cold calls for 2 hours a day. 14 years in the business, he wants me prospecting 2 hours a day, or he wants to charge me $100 every day I miss.
You're never too good to sweep a floor, man.
Hey, I totally agree.
I tell guys all the time, like, you ain't got nothing going on, grab a fucking broom.
Well,
like you're done installing that window, you're done doing this, grab a fucking broom.
Just like every job site you've ever had. There's job sites that I walk into, it looks like a tornado went through. Your job sites are not, because it's ready to work the next day. You're delivering a quality product within that 2 to 3 month period. If you say, hey, it's going to be ready in 90 days for delivery, probably going to be ready in 75. But there's other guys that'll tell you 90, tell us 90.
And it's
And
it's
it's
120
and guess
or
what? Who's
200.
it's going to cost? It's going to cost the consumer money. It's going to give us headaches, and the whole process is going to be convoluted, right? So why would you go back to a Nick Cessna if that was the case? So no, you're never. If you ain't picking up the broom or you ain't dropping the fries, I mean, you're not learning, right?
So what does it take to be a successful loan officer right now, starting day one?
Yeah.
Only knowing you, Ryan Dolan, and hypothetically, for example, you have a disciplined mentee, that a younger guy or girl who listens, who takes advice. This may sound like a unicorn, but there are people out there that
say,
actually,
can you get me any of those
that,
guys?
that actually take advice, that take constructive criticism, and will listen to you. There's a kid who actually he takes some advice from me and from you as well, and we'll probably have him on a podcast. A younger realtor named Dylan Bear, and he listens. Now he's a 25-year-old, 26-year-old. They still have that knucklehead mentality, but there's guys out there to listen and girls out there that listen and will take your advice. Now, hypothetically, you have one of those people, and they really want to be a loan officer. What's it take? What's the game plan for them, and what would it take? Lay it out for them to be successful right now, only knowing you.
Sure. And a guy like Dylan, we're colleagues, we're friends. We don't work together as much as I like. This guy's a superstar, right? He listens and gravitates towards guys that know, successful people, right? To be a successful LO, it never stops, right? If you think you're too good to learn anymore, then you may as well get out, right? I learn things every day, live and learn. I try to reinvent my business pretty much every year, right? To see what's working. You find out what your niche is, right? I don't like to do TikTok. I don't like to do a ton of social media. What I like to do is give a white glove, very detailed service, interactive with my client, so they can get done that transaction and say, damn, man, he left no stone unturned. I'm going to fire this offer, and I feel super confident. Because when we're out putting in offers, we want to win, right? We're not wasting time. We're not kicking the tires, hoping, hey, this offer sticks. No, we have an ace in the hole if something goes wrong. It's always learning, being able to pivot. And like I said, if you don't have mentors and people that have blazed the trail before you, get one, because you won't last. There's some, I guess, they're one-offs that do, and they're probably the ones that fade out, right? Because they think they're too good to learn. They think they're too good to get up to speed. But a lot of the things that I've learned, which I'm horrible at, right? It's time blocking, delegation of tasks. You got to learn all this stuff, and stuff for control freaks like myself to let go. That's part of living and learning. So, it's a never ending kind of, what can I do to get a little better? And you got to do a ton of reevaluation. You got to look at yourself and say, like, shit, dude, you're not doing a great job here. You're not working as long as you should be. You're not studying the guides as much as you should be. You're not following guys that close 412 loans, like the guys. Like, after those conferences, go sit with those people. Find out what the hell it is they do, and take one piece from him, and put it in your business and make it your own.
So what's the playbook? Like, if you had this person, like, what's the playbook? What are you telling? What's their first task week one? Like, what do you tell them to do? You tell them to go just contact everybody in their phone book?
I think for the first, when you start off, you always got to lean on your close immediate sphere of influence, right? It's always friends and family. And people say, oh, God, my friends and family aren't going to do this. Well, guess what? That's where you're going to get started. So the mentor has to go there. I don't think it is you sit there, study as much as you can. Learn the guidelines, dedicate an hour or two a day to learn your craft. But it's really trial by fire. Get out, get uncomfortable, speak to people that you otherwise wouldn't speak to. Learn about products you otherwise wouldn't know about. If you think you're just an FHA or a conventional lender, learn how to do new construction. Learn how to do investor loans. There's so much out there. There's LOs that do only certain products, but I like to have the whole gamut available for me, because this neighborhood and everywhere in the city of Philadelphia and outside requires it, right? There's always a different loan. It's not a one-size-fits-all shop.
And then how can buyers lean on Ryan Dolan to win in this market right now?
Sure. I mean, what we like to emphasize is, although we are licensed throughout the nation, we're hyper-localized, right? So when we submit offers in and we're working with clients and we're going to win a house, we usually work with that agent on the other side. And if you don't, guess what? Make a new friend. Pick up the phone. Say, hey, I would love to, I'm a student of success. I would love to hear what you do in your business that makes you successful every day. Trust me, you stroke the ego of a couple people. I mean, you'll be blown away by what you can learn. You go into it with one intention and you'll find out a lot other. But again, we're not kicking the can here. When we put together estimates, consultations, we're doing it for a specific reason. It's to get that person to hit their goals and to get them in the home they want.
Perfect. Now, realtors.
They're our bread and butter, right?
Well, I have a lot of opinion on realtors. And we'll get onto that.
I love you guys.
Throughout episodes. But there's a lot of realtors that do the wrong thing, and they're in the business for the wrong thing. And you touch on it, people that are just in it on the money. A lot of realtors are just counting their commission as soon as they get a lead. And that's the only thing they're thinking about. I'm sure you're seeing that with loan officers as well. Now, we can go on and on about the wrong things that people do that we encounter, but let's touch on a few. What are some things that realtors are doing without saying names or getting specific, but what are some things that they're doing wrong and with doing business with you? And then on the flip side of that, how should a realtor utilize you and My City Mortgage and your expertise on how to get ahead, how to be better at their business?
Sure. So when I first started in the industry, you thought it was, hey, let's take a real estate agent and the group out, play some golf, have a couple beers, and they should just feed me deals. Well, you'll quickly learn that that's not how it works, right? So
I've heard plenty of them say, like, why do I need to do business with this mortgage officer? Like, I can get a loan officer from anywhere. So, and I try to tell someone when they say that, I'm like, you're dealing with the wrong fucking loan officer.
You're dealing with the wrong loan officer.
If that's your opinion, you're dealing with the wrong fucking people.
Well, we're trying to create partnerships, right? This is not just a one-off paycheck. It's not a one-off transaction. You want to work with people that you enjoy maybe hanging out with outside of work, right? That's how I do it. Like, of course, you're going after some of the top whales, some of the best in the industry, but you may not jive with them, and they may not jive with you. So it's like, do you want to continue to waste your time, or do you want to build your book of business?
I'm sure you're combating their egos as well.
Well, yeah, sure. And probably there's some days where they're like, man, what does this guy think he is, right? So it's a little
with your
give and
pretty
take.
little suit on coming into their office.
Listen, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, right? So it's like you try to find out what works best for you. When I link up with real estate agents, I like a true partnership. Now, I know clients are going to shop. They're going to look for the best deal. But my colleague Kyle always says some cheesy line. I think, when you're going to buy your wedding dress, are you going to go to Amazon, right? And it's like, Amazon's awesome for everything. You probably could get an awesome wedding dress there. But you want that white glove service. And that's kind of the difference between our company and a lot, and look, there's a lot of great LOs in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, these guys are awesome. And some of the real estate professionals, the realtors particularly, are phenomenal. A lot of the fat's been trimmed. A lot of the people that got in through the pandemic are now out, right? And even in our industry, there was 200,000 licensed LOs throughout the country. There's now about 70,000 of those. And as that gets better,
there's a ton of realtors who have dropped out of the game.
Yeah, that don't renew their license. And
another realtor that I know, an older realtor, seasoned realtor, right? That I know. Nobody likes.
Are
to
we
call
seasoned?
Old anymore. Yeah. I still feel wet behind the ears at times, man. I still feel like I'm learning something new every day. But this realtor was telling me that the numbers were staggering from the amount of real estate licenses that people got in 2020 when COVID hit. People were working from home. They're like, I'm going to go be a realtor. And it was anybody could have sold a home in 2020 and 2021. I mean, my daughters could have sold homes.
Sure.
You
get a listing side, you're sitting on a pile of gold.
But the amount of people that got them, I want to say, don't quote me on the numbers, but it was a staggering number. Like 80% of those people that got it are already gone.
Sure. Now, I mean, look, as I always mention, you want to establish a great partnership, but that doesn't mean we're not bringing in new people all the time. There's young superstars that you'd love to get in. There's older agents that work in one specific field that you can learn really 4 or 5 decades worth of real estate knowledge. I mean, they've been through it all. So again, the way I do my business, it's only people that I know I can jive with. We discuss friends, we discuss family, what our likes, dislikes are, things like that. Someone that you can go out and play around a golf with. You can go out and have a beer or a cocktail with. You can go to a basketball game with. they're the people that I like to work with. There's other people that say, hey, Ryan, you are just great at your job. I don't need the gifts. I don't need to go out to the games. And that's a great partnership, in my opinion. It's like they lay the groundwork there. The expectations are kind of set. They know I'm going to deliver. We keep them up to date, and that's all it is. It's really about the communication piece, what that person wants. It's your referral source. They're paying your bills. So you got to find out how they tick, how they operate, and that's kind of what you do.
You just touched on something that's very important to me with the communication. And a lot of times I try to steer potential home buyers into you. And there's many reasons why. Number one, I know that you're going to treat them right. They're going to be happy. Every house that we sell, I don't want there to be animosity between us and the buyer. And the buffer zones there are a good realtor, right? Which really it's hard to come across them, right? Really good realtors that really care, right? They're out there.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely.
if you're offended by this, be offended by it. Because you're probably a shitty realtor, right? If you're offended by that statement, you're probably a shitty realtor. So the good ones, and they're the ones that I deal with, and they make that process good for the buyers, right? And I know that you're going to as well. The other aspect of that, of why I always try to push people into you, other than the fact that you're my friend, is that the communication is top notch. I mean, you're constantly emailing like, hey, I'm obviously, you always tell me like, obviously I'm not going to get into specifics of what I talked about with these people, but they're good.
Yeah,
We're good. And then you tell me the timelines and you're like, hey, these people are getting me everything that I need. And you have these emails, and I'm not a big email guy, but a lot of times you send these emails, and I don't know if they're automatically generated when you get to certain points in your business, and it seems like that, and you'll send them over, and then it's funny. You must know that I'm not an email guy. Like, I'll get a notification on my phone, boom, there's an email from Ryan, and then I'll get like a text from you or a call from you, and you're like, yo, I sent you an email. Jen's probably going to get that, just to let you know. We're good. These people have been great. They're getting me everything, so that goes a long way with me. Now I have a lot of trust. Obviously I have trust in you, but I have trust in the situation. And now I have more trust in the people because you're telling me, hey, they're doing everything they need to do. There's times where you don't know that you're going to get a mortgage commitment to close when I'm dealing with other financiers until like the last second. And it's like, it's frustrating.
So think about when you go out to buy something. I don't want anybody selling down my throat. I just want to be kept in the know. I want to be firm on what we discussed. And if what we discussed and we agreed to lock, move forward, that's what I expect, right? I expect realistic expectations, timeline set. Look, problems come up. They're going to come up. And if you try to hide and get cute with it, that's where you get in trouble. Face them head on. Talk to your partners. The last thing I want to do to a referral source.
Tell the people on the other side of the table.
Yeah, absolutely. You call up and say, hey, there's things that happen either in your business or third parties or outside that are out of your control. Control what you can control. If you have to reset the expectations, do it. There's some people that just don't communicate well. They'll hide. They won't answer their phone. If you send me somebody and I don't pick up my phone after a certain amount of time, I don't expect the business back. Sure. And the last thing I want is real estate agents, title companies, sellers calling you who tee me up the business when it could have been easily avoided. I mean, it's really not that difficult.
I don't think that's ever happened where I give a referral to you, because then I also think that you don't want to deal with me being a pain in your ass, being like, what the fuck did you just drop the ball for? Because I'm just going to bust, we've been friends forever. I'm going to bust your balls to forever about it. But you're just not that type of guy. But, the communication is just fucking key in this. And you touched on it with you have to be upfront. You
have to be honest, because look, not every lead's going to turn into a deal, right? But what you do is, and what I do at least, is we don't push them away. If it's a no now, well, how can we find out it's going to be a yes? So what time frame can we put on this? How can we fix your credit? Are we looking at X amount of dollars to make us a buyer, right? There's some people that look and say, oh, I'm not dealing with this guy. He's done. Credit stinks. We'll never talk to him again. And he's gone. We don't like to do that. Any lead that comes into us, the goal is obviously to make them a buyer. But don't be unrealistic about it. If they're not ready now, Why would you make someone else's issue your issue? And then because all of our issue slows down our time, our production, leaks into our family life. And I don't operate my business that way.
We utilize you a lot of times as a gatekeeper, you know? And,
Yeah.
and Jen says all the time, like, well, did they talk to Dolan yet? How do they want to buy one of our homes. They see the home on Instagram and they love the home, but they want to buy it. But can they really afford it? And we know that once we put them in touch with you, number one, we're like, hey, you want one of our homes? Go get pre-approved by Dolan. Now, if they don't even take that step, don't even DM me again.
Because you're not serious.
Don't
right?
even DM me again.
So,
and then when they do reach out to you, you tell me right away, like, yo, this person's not qualified yet. Like, we got to fix their credit. They have some credit issues.
6 to 12 months, we'll come back.
They'll
and
be
we'll
ready in a
this.
year or two, and I'm going to let them know that, listen, you know, these guys still have homes in a year or two. It isn't the home that you just saw online. That's going to be sold in a week. Don't worry about that one. But, you know, once I get you pre-approved, I can guarantee you that you'll get first access to one of their homes.
But how many times do they come to us, right? They come to us and they're not a buyer now. And 2 years later, we have a success story on our hands, right? Guys that say, man, I don't make enough money. I make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Well, we figure out, hey, you can afford this and we can do this. There's so many creative ways. We have so many success stories throughout. So, you know, as a young buyer or somebody that's thinking about getting into this industry, first, just learn your stuff, right? Don't get discouraged. Everybody starts somewhere, right? And trust me, there's a lot of people worse off than where you think you are. And you'll eventually get there. Like you mentioned, building the right team throughout a real estate transaction is key. Great builder, great real estate agent, title companies, mortgage professional. If you're not doing your due diligence there, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the best LO for everybody. There's some people that simply, you just can't jive. Personalities won't work. They try to push you. They try to steamroll you. They won't listen to the advice. And you got to kind of pivot from there. Sometimes, unfortunately, you got to make the hard decision. Like, I can't have my staff or myself bogged down with this. You're not kind of you're not receptive to the criticism or the advice. It's a moving part. Everything's a moving target. Every client's different. Every home's different. And, you know, the ability to be a chameleon and think on your feet is something that I'm good at. And, you know, again, I attribute that to 20 years in the hospitality industry. You know, starting off as a busboy, you learn how people tick and you learn how they react, and controlling your reactions and how you do your business is just such a key part of how I operate.
All right. So, Ryan, we're sitting in his house. How could someone buy this house, and what is it going to take? No nonsense, no fluff. What does it actually take? What are the steps they have to do to buy this house? It's $575,000. It's a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, finished basement. We put a 3rd floor addition on this. I mean, you see it. Everyone's seen the videos. So, no nonsense, no fluff. What does it take for them? Credit score, money down, all that stuff. What are their payments going to be?
Sure. First off, knocked out job again. You guys do the best work. Keep it as simple as possible. First, contact me at rdolan@mycitylending.com. Give me a shout. And then what it is you really have to evaluate what the borrower's goals are in simplest terms, right? It's not as simple as what does it cost. But say, for example, if they wanted to buy this house at ask price of $575 and you were a minimum down payment buyer, which a lot of people are in this market, right? Inflation has got caught up to many people. So you can get into a house like this for about $30,000 to $35,000 all in. We have some additional grant programs that people may qualify for. You're looking at a monthly payment about $3,700 to $3,800, including your property taxes and your insurance. But we scale that for the client. If the client says, hey, maybe that monthly's a little too high for me, let's play around with 10% down. Is it feasible to do 20? Can you get a gift? There's so many things that you have to peel back throughout the transaction that work for the borrower best. But, you know, they think of $575, it's so daunting. It's not.
What would be a credit score that you would need to walk into here for that minimum down payment down? You have this home at $575 for, you're saying 30 to 40 grand out of pocket. Like, what would your credit score
be? Sure. And, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions about credit score. People think, oh, if I'm under a 680, I'm not going to qualify. Well, it depends. Not everybody is what's considered a conventional buyer, which is okay. There's great programs for middle to low FICO scores, right, that allow you to put 3.5% down. So you can be as low as probably 620 is where you want your score to be. You can get approved at a lower. But again, our goal as a financial professional is to see what makes sense, because that could get very expensive for the client at that credit score. So maybe you put a couple step process there. Let's increase your credit score. What little things do we have to tweak with whatever money we have to make it work?
What do you think, salary wise, or W-2, whatever it is, if you work for yourself? What do they need to improve income wise, whether they're single or a dual income family? What's that range that you want them at for this type of home?
Sure. Now, household income is an interesting thing, right? Because it's really based off your debt and your liabilities. So if you don't have that much debt and outgoing liability on your credit report on a monthly, a very modest living can qualify for a home. Now, I've seen people that make $500,000 that have more bills outgoing than they have incoming, so they can't qualify for anything.
Now, do you have any other programs that would help people like that have a lot of school loans, like doctors, lawyers, stuff like that?
We do. We have 100% down medical professional program, which you would only have to, if you're not paying back your student loans, only 1%, or it's income based. I was doing one this morning, actually. There's no mortgage insurance on it. You can close it in 25, 30 days. There is investor loans where you don't have to put up your W-2, where you don't have to put up your pay stubs. It is based off the cash flow of the property. So there's so many different programs out there now for first-time home buyers, investor programs, medical professionals, low credit scores, bank statement loans, ITIN loans, foreign nationals. I mean,
The medical ones are phenomenal.
The medical ones are phenomenal. But again, you want to do, depending on the client's goals, you want to put that next to maybe a conventional loan. Or if they're a lower credit score, you want to maybe see if an FHA loan works best for you, because ultimately it comes down to the numbers, the presentations, which don't ever lie.
Yeah, those medical loans are really, they're phenomenal programs, and you're taking on people who have, I'm guessing is why they developed these, and this is just a guess on my end, that they're betting on the fact that these people are super intelligent and they're going to be high income earners years down the line. They have a lot of school bills now, but they have stable work. Like, you could be a doctor all over the place,
sure,
and they're fine. They're probably pretty financially sound people that are making the right decisions. So they made these loan programs where these people have to come out of like their pocket, like very little.
Very little.
You're knocking PMI'd out. I mean, it's a phenomenal program, and it really gets me thinking that there should be stuff for nurses, firefighters, police officers, stuff like that. And I know that, maybe last year sometime you guys were talking about ones for, I think, police and fire.
Yeah, it's called the Helpers Act. And it's actually, and I'll give you LOs that I know are not paying attention, a tip. There's an act in Congress right now that's, has bipartisan support. It's definitely going to be passed. It's called the Helpers Act, and it allows your EMTs, your first responders, all to finance a property with your teachers, 100% down.
Totally underpaid people.
Little to no mortgages. Yeah, I mean, these are the underpaid heroes of the community that sometimes they are the ones that get jammed up because they have a car payment or they have the student loans or, unforeseen things. These are the people that you want to be able to buy homes. So, that act's coming up. We also, at my city, we love our first responders. We offer credits to anybody that is a police officer, first responder, EMT, firefighter. We'll give them credits off their closing costs. We won't charge them anything because we want them in our community. They're the people that we want. So going back to that medical professional piece, like a lot of these new construction and renovated homes, a lot of ours are medical professionals. We've closed quite a bit. So tell us, like, when I have a medical professional that comes to me and they want to, all right, we have a nice, beautiful property, like, how do they link up with you? Because you seem to send me a lot of those people. How am I getting those referrals?
So if you're getting those people and you're coming to me with those type of people, I know that there's a high percentage that this loan's going to close and these are good people, right? You're not going to bother me with nonsense anyway, but with those type of people, they're high performing people, right? And they're going to want some of our more higher end homes. They're not going to want our entry level homes, or some of them may, and I'll sell them to them. But a home like this where, so much went into this home, and there's hardwoods throughout this place. There's courts. There's there's basically a whole other kitchen behind us in here, and they're the type of people that I want to buy this house.
And they're finding you, and I know a lot of our referrals through social media, which is crazy because we both aren't insanely. You have a great business website where you'll find a lot of your buyers because the quality and the product speaks for themselves. So where's the Instagram at?
All on Instagram. It's CCS_PA, and you'll see a bunch of videos on there and walkthrough videos of homes, and Danny does a lot of that stuff for us.
Sure.
Danny makes these videos, and now my kids are getting involved in these videos with them, and it's really cool. So people see these reels, they may, one may go viral, and then people call or DM and they say, I got to have this house.
And we put together the quick numbers, right? And we break it down to them in quick terms.
They got to contact you after
How
that.
How fast does that happen, right? And for us, it's quick. It's you get that referral source because you're one of our best VIPs, right? You tee us up these clients. We find out exactly what they need. We set the expectations for the client and you when we're going to close. And that's how the transaction should go, right? And I can't tell you the amount of buyers we had through Instagram, really. And it's as simple as here goes the product, here goes the production quality of it, and here goes the numbers. It's really not that hard.
It happens pretty fast. I mean, people will hit us up with a DM or an email. Myself or Jen will get back to them. And, first question we have, you pre-approved for a mortgage? No. What's that mean? That means you got to call Ryan. And we put them right onto you, and then I shoot you a text. I'll even screenshot the DMs or the email and just text it right to you like, hey, expect a phone call. I gave these people this. They were interested. They responded to East Street. They were interested in the house that we're sitting in. And then you take it from there. You get them pre-approved. You can close these loans in under 30 days. And then I prefer to use Class Abstract out of Chestnut Hill, another neighborhood guy.
Chris Bischoff and team are great.
The best. He's never, ever done anything.
We're gonna have to
me
get
wrong.
Chris on as a guest.
The dude is awesome. He's great. His dad started that business. They used to be on Ridge Avenue. Now they're up in Chestnut Hill out of one of the Elfont Wissahickon realtor's office up there. And Chris and his team are great. He has a Jen that works for him. My wife is Jen with one N. His Jen is Jen with two N's. It can get a little confusing at times because you're getting peppered by emails from Jens. But they handle it quickly. They do it.
So you follow the same blueprint as we do, is establish the right team.
Correct.
So now you got me going a million miles a minute, right? I'm thinking of, because your world to me is still foreign, right? I tried my hand at the investment, the flipping.
I remember being down there in Fishtown.
Yeah,
and saying,
my projects take a little longer than
what are you doing, bro?
They take a little longer, but how, for our next pod or our next episode, how does the normal run-of-the-mill guy with a little cash in his pocket and a little ambition get to where it says the construction services is?
Before we get into all the stuff, your questions that you have from me, because I had a bunch of questions for you, in the past, however long this episode was. How can people get a hold of you? How can people get a hold of Ryan Dolan, My City Lending?
Yeah,
let them
sure.
know.
So, easiest ways, obviously, phone call, email. We have an app, rdolan at mycitylending.com. We're licensed throughout the nation, so we can write loans in every state. But for the next episode, I have a million questions for you, as a lot of the problems I had trying to flip houses, it's not for everybody, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there that always say, how does Nick and his team do it? So I have a million questions for you. I've seen how you guys operate, but there's still stuff that I simply don't know. When I kind of went through my flips and things like that, I had some contractor issues, definitely some subcontractor issues. And one major shout out to Direct Subs. They are promoting a relaunch in the next few weeks that can help you organize your whole staff if you have a construction project. So keep an eye out for that, and that's at Direct Subs. But man, I'm looking forward to the episode where we can discuss how do we start from day one, acquire a property to settlement table.
And you definitely could have used Direct Subs when I walked through that Fishtown flip. It was a disaster.
Maybe on the hotel?
And, yeah. You know what? The hotel, real quick, before we wrap this up, you have a cool project going on, you and your partners. I haven't had the opportunity to go down there, but I have been following along on Instagram of what you guys are doing. And obviously you've been sending me photos. You guys took this awesome old hotel in Old City, fully gutted it, got it all licensed up, and you guys are completely renovating it for a boutique hotel. It's really cool. took a lot of balls to invest in something like
Sure.
that. And it's a really cool project, and I'm really rooting for you. So can you just give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, and look, it's we have a lot of ancillary real estate deals going on as well, right? Because this industry of ours leads into so many different avenues, but everything it's consistent in the sense that build your team. Listen to the smart financial people. Listen to the construction people. So what we did was we established a great 5-person team. We can't wait to show you more about it. It's the Gaslamp Hotel. Our
Cool
grand
name.
opening is going to be,
The name is cool as
and
shit.
we'll tell you, why we named it that. But it's coming April of this year, 2024, after a few setbacks. But
And what is that street that it's on? It's like one of the
so it's
older
on Second
streets.
Street, and it's across the street from Alfred's Alley, the oldest continuous street in the United States, the residential continuous
Like
street.
Ben Franklin was walking on.
I mean,
those-
right around
on
the
those
corner,
rocks.
as we would like to say. Yeah, I mean, the
That's
grave of
wild.
Ben Franklin right around the corner, Betsy Ross House. So these are cool things. So everybody thinks, hey, we're just pushing paper, we're putting numbers together, we're trying to close deals. No, we're really passionate about this stuff. So this is the things that, hey, as we do our day-to-day operations, well, how can we learn to do different projects? I never thought I was going to open up something like this, but we see guys that are ambitious like you, the direct subs team. This is something that we live and breathe day in, day out, right? This is something I'm passionate about. I get up in the morning and we really care about it. So awesome projects to kind of tell you about.
I'm excited about.
Yeah,
it.
your project. I know. I can't wait till everybody.
I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see what your team and Danny cooks up with a video there to like launch this place. Like I'm excited to see that.
It's going to be a great one. So, kind of as we wrap this one up, for the next episode, we're going to discuss, how does the regular run-of-the-mill investor get in the game? How do they beat a Nick Cessna? How do they get the funds up? Who do they hire? When's the delivery date? Like, what are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the wins? What some of the losses?
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, we wanted to thank you for such a great first episode and tuning in. Please follow us at the Atomic Real Estate Show on any social media platform. Our next episode is going to be amazing. We're going to learn all about the flip game, how to start from 0 to 100. Tune in next time. And again, follow us at the Atomic Real Estate Show. Thanks, guys.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.